Buongiorno a tutti, ben ritrovati. Siamo alla prima giornata della seconda settimana e riprendiamo con il ciclo di conferenze. Adesso parlerò in inglese per introdurre il professore Yang Hong. Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to introduce you Professor Yang Hong. Yang Hong is Associate Dean and Associate Professor of School of Architecture at Southeast University, where he teaches class on urban planning, history and theories, and urban design. Between many activities he do, I saw he was also visiting. He was a student at MIT. Now is director of Advanced Urban Rural Research Center. So I'm really happy to listen to his presentation, and I leave the conference to Professor Yang Hong.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniela. I will begin to share the file. Today, my topic is a spatial upgrading, back to the epicenter community. So, as we might know, that a couple months ago, that Wuhan was the epicenter, and it has been for several months. It's been 0 cases in that city, and as our professionals, planners, or architects, we are thinking about what's happened to the local community, what's happened to the entire city, and what is the tendency the next generation of community will be. So today my topic will focus on that. So after this pandemic, I guess many of us began to rethink about our city, not only physically but also socially. This epidemic includes every part of our life, no matter in China or in Italy, in Europe or in America. So I would like to deeply go into the epidemic times to see what's happened in the city. So today, Wuhan is it seems everyone know about this city, but before that, I guess not so many people know about this city. But first of all, I would like to briefly introduction of this city. So Wuhan is actually not a small place. Wuhan is the 7th biggest city in China with a population of 11 million. The city is right in the center of China, so that you can see this picture is a high-speed railway system in China. This Wuhan, this city is right in the center of China. So you can imagine how important to control the epidemic here in this city. Otherwise, people will spread all over China. The transportation here is very sophisticated, and they transport more than 400,000 passengers per day. And as I just said, that with a population of 11 million, it is one of China's 7 mega cities, and the population is still growing in the recent years. And as you might know or might not, but the Wuhan city is not a so-called developing countries typical cities. It's actually quite sophisticated. I mean, economically, the GDP ranks 7th in China. Total GDP. It's about $242 billion a year. The capital GDP is about $21,000 per person. Let's just put it in this way. The GDP per capita of Wuhan is close to Portugal, and of course about the entire population. So this is the size of the city, and also the Wuhanis, the native of Wuhan people, are regarded has a certain reputations in China. They are regarded as smart one, a very straightforward one, and have a very hot temper, and that makes them the community members to have a self-organization during the epidemic phases. So that is something about Wuhan. And also we know that you might have already know that pretty well in China, how the Chinese government or the people fight with the virus, and they do have some experiences, but we know for sure and know quite familiar with is in the national level and in the city level. For example, there are several phases when we're facing that epidemic. The first phase one is totally after some time, and after this person, the Zhong Nanshan, this is the Chinese version Dr. Fortune, telling people on the live CCTV show to saying that it's a confirmed person-to-person spread virus. So the entire nation get very nervous and take it very seriously. So we know it that the Chinese taking different measures and different strategies to control that epidemic. For example, lockdown the entire city. I remember it's in the later January, just before the Chinese New Year, and this shows the railway station in those days. And this entire city suddenly stopped, and not a single public transportation was allowed to working, still functioning in the city, and people are all stay at home at that moment. It's really tough time. But also back to now, we heard about a lot about the strategy of flatten the curve. So if you see the curve in Wuhan, you will see in the first stage the confirmed cases growing, and the second phase, the confirmed cases still coming. That is after the close of the city. But what happened in this period? Only to shut down the city is not enough until the third phase. The third phase is to say not only shut down the city, but also shut down the community. And that makes the anti-epidemic will be very success to be found in the finally. And using a lot of efforts to test as many as they can, and to isolate as many confirmed cases as they can, to make this spread chain, to cut down the spread chain. So after 2 months, I guess, after 2 months, this entire situation is under control, and there's 0 cases for the Wuhan city for a long time. We know they have a lot of things and measures to be done. Many of us know about this quite well. For example, building 2 hospitals in just 10 days. I believe you might know about this situation, but I'm not going to talking about that. And also, you maybe know that the local government changes 18 stadiums or public spaces into a wartime hospital, but turn that into a mobile cabin hospital to contain the confirmed cases or the mild symptom cases, so that it collected all confirmed cases to cut the family spread chain. And also, that is facilities all around the city. But still, these strategies and over 20 these mobile cabin hospitals. Also, you might also know that there are 40,000 medical workers from all over China to come to Wuhan City to support the overwhelming medical system. Otherwise, they cannot deal with so many patients. Also, we know that these medical workers suffer a lot all over the world, and they are doing this tremendous work to fight with the epidemic. So personally, I was showing the great respect to this person. And yes, also no matter in Italy or in China, they are really doing a wonderful job in controlling this epidemic. But I'm still not well go into the detail about these persons. These other measures are also doing during the epidemic. For example, this is a screenshot of my cell phone. This picture shows that how near, what is the distance from the nearest confirmed cases. For example, this shows in the mid of the February the situation in Nanjing City. So the nearest confirmed case to me is about 3 kilometers away. So still I feel quite safe at that moment. And this is the QR code. Now it's widely used in China to show whether or not you are from a dangerous region or are you from a comparatively safer place. If you have a green code, which you can go everywhere. Red one, you need to go to the quarantine for 14 days. So after all of these measures have done, the entire situation has been under control, and now the city has come up to normal status for now. But today, what I'm talking about and what I'm very interesting to find out is what happened in the community level, regardless of those, heroic behaviors. What happened in the local small communities? So actually, these pictures shows how the local community workers and the community volunteers doing during the epidemic. It's pretty cold when the coronavirus is the most serious times. But these people actually are doing a tremendous work, so making the community measures or strategies to become indispensable one during this anti-epidemic campaign. So I will go into the social structure and the spatial structure about this community governance, because we all know when we're talking about the community, it is not only a physical concept, it is also a social structure. It is also combined with the social governance. So in China, its very unique part is that there is several levels in the administrative structure. For example, we have the city, have a district, we have communities, but what below the community is called a grid. So what is a grid? A community can be a large place, for example, like this blue part This is the entire community. But there is different unit, small unit, maybe a campus, maybe a group of resident houses, and this small part of this entire community, we call it a grid. And each grid is responsible by certain people to have this. In the normal times, they are doing all of these social services, collecting the different data, they're doing the community workers to the local people. But in the wartime or in the epidemic time, the grid become a very important part to fight with the virus. For example, we can know it for sure. This is I take from several of the typical community in China. So this entire community has been divided in dozens of small grid, and each grid is not only have a very clear spatial boundary, but also have certain people to be responsible for. So that is the basic idea of so-called community grid. So what happened in the grid level in the wartime or in this epidemic period? So this picture shows what happens. So there is security guard, there is nurses, medical workers, there is police officer, is everyone to go into the grid and to have some public services. And we also see that in the normal time, there's maybe only 2 or 3 people to take care of the entire grid. But during the epidemic, suddenly there is a lot of functions are going to the grid. There's a lot of works to be done by the local communities and the grid members, if I put it that way. So these people, all different kinds of people, are going down from the city level or from the district level to the grid level to provide their social services. And then it makes even important that the community center or the community public spaces become even more important than ever. So you can see the different pictures about what they are doing. For example, they need to make a very strict management, a very strict access control in the unit boundary. So these are volunteers, and they need to testing all the local residents, and they need to spread those who are confirmed cases and healthy people, and they to quarantine the confirmed cases to the hospital as soon as they can. And also, after Wuhan has closed, the community has closed, people are not alone for at least, I think, maybe 2 months to go outside their community to buy daily supplies. So these delivery men also take care of for the local residents to buy things for them. Also, the community clinic also plays a very important role, because when the people have a fever or have any symptoms like coronavirus, the first step is go to the community level clinic to get confirmed or get a basic treatment. So thanks for my students, Ms. Chu Jianghui. She is actually a native of Wuhan, and she helped me a lot to find out what happened in that city, in the community level. So she draw this picture just to show in the wartime or in the epidemic time, what is the functional change and what is the structure change of the community. It changed from comparatively simple function and very little people to a wartime, maybe hundreds of peoples, different kinds of functions, this kind of super community center. So because of this kind of transformation and because of this kind of community level service, I think is one of the very important reason that Wuhan can come to the normal in such a short time. So this is a basic idea of how many works the local community should do. For example, the information gathering, the patient referral, the isolation, disinfection, temperature checks, access management, and the publicity and education, regular patrol, group purchase, running errands, technical maintenance, distribution of the donated materials, and take care of the old and the weak. And those things does not belong to the daily work of the community, but in this special time, it will be. So these pictures shows how they are doing that. For example, gathering the information about where have you been? Do you get in touch with any suspected cases and transform the confirmed cases to the nearest hospital, and doing all this disinfection of the environment and the temperature checks and access management and control, public education to show people what is the right way to prevent from the virus. So you can see these pictures even today, even in my city, not in Wuhan, in Nanjing, still security guards are staying every entrance of the community to take temperature from everyone. And this one is my personal favorite. You know, this is the one below is from a movie. So every day it seems like pointed by a gun or something. And the left side, this right side one, you cannot do that to a police officer every day, right? But in the epidemic times, that it happens every day. And there's other functions they usually do not happen in the community level. For example, the entire community was locked down, and they cannot access to any supermarkets. They cannot access to any drugstore or something. So these community workers and the volunteers help the local people to get the suppliers, the food, the vegetables, all kinds of the services. You can see that. And this picture shows this is most serious times people are not allowed to step out of the community. So the community volunteers to buy hundreds of, vegetables to deliver to each family, so they can get the basic supply. So it's not happening, every day, but in the wartime, it needs space, also need people to deal with such things. There's other things, a lot of things to those community level. That's why the community level has, personally, I think, is maybe plays the most important. Also, it's not as exciting as to build a hospital in 1 week or something, but still, if without these people's work and without this mechanism, and I don't think that Wuhan's epidemic can be controlled so quickly. And you might also know that a couple of weeks ago that Beijing has a so-called second wave, or maybe there's new cases in Beijing. They're also by those community workers that it's has been 0 cases for a week already to put down the epidemic in a very short time. So that is something I want to show, that this this is not a political propaganda, but I have to say this is a picture of the Chinese President Xi Jinping to Wuhan. When he came to Wuhan, that he specially go to the local community center to say hi to these community workers. That shows how important their work are. So what's the experience that we can learn from this, and what will the next generation community center will be? I think that this time the WA.Ve, the basic topic, post-COVID-19 scenario, has gave us a lot of possibility to think about next generations of cities and the architectures. But in my perspective, it's always combined with the social structure and the physical functions and the physical spaces. So, for example, for our professionals as architects or as urban planners, we treasure the value of public lives, and we treasure the value of public open spaces. But during the epidemic, it seems everyone's afraid of going to the public spaces, and they're preferring to deal with things like that. Also, we don't want it, but it seems it's very effective in control the epidemic. So it comes to a dilemma. Should we go back to this very strict and very rigid strategies, or shall we again embrace the public life? So as our educators in the university, we always teach our students to say that open public spaces is very good, is a value, and we want those kind of life. For example, we know that the gated community in China is very famous. The community always has a very how to say strict the walls, and it's gated community. It's internal ones, but it is so close that not connected to the rest of the cities, and all of the urban planners, all of the architects, they don't like this kind of model. But after this epidemic, it seems very easy to control the single unit rather than the quite open community. So when we go back to that, this picture is something like 1,200 years ago. This is the capital of the Tang Dynasty, it's Chang'an. This may be the earliest or the most splendid time that Chinese cities. It is a gated community. You can see that in this movie. This movie shows what is that, is a gated community. So there is no so-called public spaces, and the urban streets are all closed one, just facing to the walls. But internal the community, there will be a small complex of residential, commercial, and other things. So are we talking about we going back 1,000 years ago? No, it's collapsed shortly after several hundred years. In the Song Dynasty, in this very famous Chinese painting, you can see people are treasure this public space, treasure this public life, the open spaces. The Qingming Shanghe Tu shows how many people in these commercial streets. They can talk to each other. They can do whatever they want in the public spaces. Can we go back to that time? So that will be my concern. That is also a very interesting topic to talk about. So there is definitely some spatial changes after the epidemic. But what changes will happen in our community when the temporary devices and the personnel are removed? For example, this very strict security guards and the local community workers um, uh, back to their normal life, and after it was removed, what will happen? And if we're always talking about there might be a second wave, can we still pay that much to guarantee that the community is safe? Is that a sustainable solution to the epidemic? So today, the Chinese, even the Chinese government became to encourage people to have so-called street markets because that helps the economy to recovery. But what if there is a second wave or there is other things happening? So there's a lot of possibilities after the epidemic. So this time we choose a very typical community right in the center of Wuhan city. This community is not very far away from the Hunan seafood market. It's only like 1 or 2 kilometers away from the Hunan seafood market. It is an old community combined with new constructions and the old ones. It's combined with the commercial functions, the medical functions, the residence functions, and the other functions. It is right in the center of the city. And as all these big cities have faced, it's facing not only the demands for upgrading, but also they meet the challenges of the post-COVID scenarios. I would put it that way. Most of the Chinese communities and maybe other communities in the other countries are facing the challenge of how can the community center can provide better service for the local people, can provide multifunctional facilities to the local people, and build a healthy and a sustainable community center, a better environment for the local people. That is a challenge, no matter we met the coronavirus or not. On the other hand, they need to facing a new situation that maybe in the next few years we have to live with the virus, or at least we need to build up a more resilient community so that they can deal with the peacetime and the wartime at the same time. So how can we make the balance for the next generation of this community? That will be the key of this workshop. So as I showed this community, including nearly 12,000 people and different kinds of function. It's very complex in the urban context. And I believe there is quite a lot of things for the student to think about. And they might think more than the physical level of the community space making, but also think about what is future, what is the tendency for the next generations of community and the community center. So my question will be the how to learn the lessons or maybe the experiences, if there is any, from this public health emergency, and put forward suggestions for optimizing the community center, and how to combine the spatial upgrading with the social improvement in the local governance, and how to make the community center more resilient so that it could meet the demands of everyday life and the emergency times. So more resilient, safer, and healthy community. I think it is not only the value for the Chinese cities or Chinese communities, but also the key values for the communities in Europe or in other regions. I know that during this pandemic, no matter how strict the measures could be, people still trading for a better life and trading for their public activities. I think this picture shows how people in this epidemic still wanted to have some social activities. And also this picture also from Italy to show how people can treasure their lives and enjoy their lives even in this particular unique situation. So that is the brief introduction of this workshop. Grazie. Thank you very much. Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Daniela.
Hello?
Hello? Hi.
Okay, thank you very much. It was really interesting, especially for the pandemic problem we have and for this wave. So it is exactly the focus on the theme of this workshop. So thank you very much. It was really interesting. I remember to students that they, if they have question, they can use the chat. So we wait just 1 minute if there are any questions. And in the meantime, I ask you something. But I saw you show some picture of Wuhan at the beginning without people. So I'm just curious to know if this is a photo from you or just
no, it's not a photo of me. I couldn't go to Wuhan in the
yeah, okay.
So but my student, my TA, my teaching assistant, she's in Wuhan. I have not seen her for 6 months.
Oh wow! Okay,
yeah, but
impressive.
she's currently at home. I mean, in their apartment for nearly 2 months, and during that 2 months, it's all relies on these community workers to deal with everything. So she's how to say, she's in the front line of what happens.
I understand. Yes. But I don't know if you saw, we asked to professor to send us photo from the country during the lockdown. So maybe I don't know if your TA is okay with this, but could you maybe send us a couple of photos so we can publish in our website?
Definitely, I have several pictures. Every month I take a picture in the riding our campus before the winter vacation, and for now, from the winter to the summer, nobody in the campus. So it's really,
so it would be really interesting if you send us some photos.
Sure.
We will really appreciate.
Yeah.
And I really thank you and your TR for this work. It's really important.
Thank you very much. I guess there is a question. Okay. Okay.
Is somebody that tell you thank you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, sorry, I have a call. Okay.
No problem.
If there is no question, we can close this interesting conference. I really was impressed because it's a really strange period we are crossing. So thank you very much. I just have one question, maybe a short question. How do you see our position as architect for the future? Do you think we will really could help for this pandemic moment? Or what do you think? Or maybe if you can make a projection of a future scenario.
Yes, I think it's a really very important question, because we have also a lot of serious discussions in the Chinese Urban Planning Society and the Chinese Architecture Society, that there is two opinions. One opinion is saying this epidemic or this pandemic is more a social governance issue. It has little to do with our profession. It has little to do with the physical spaces itself. Why? They said that no matter in China or in Europe or in America, it's also, we all have this virus. So it's not a space problem. So this is one option. The other opinion is to say, of course we can do something. Of course we can do something. For example, many people raise up the idea of so-called anti-epidemic unit. And how can we improve the physical conditions that we're slowing down the spread? And many people argue, even if that is a social public governance problem, still that need a certain space, physical space, to employ these strategies. So a good space will make all of these efforts much better to deal with the virus. So in my perspective, I think, of course, we are, as the I believe that your university and also at our university, we educate our students. I think it's very important to teach them the right value, that we can do what we can to make things better. And if you can find the right perspective and do the right work, you can definitely make some difference. But we're not, of course, we're not thinking we, the God, like Le Corbusier, think that is a machine or what, that we can change it. But we can at least do something to make that happen. Yeah.
Very clear. Yes, I totally agree. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I hope everything will be good in this workshop, and we will see us soon on this screen, maybe for other talking time or for the final presentation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I wish you good work. Saluto tutti gli studenti, buon lavoro a tutti e buona giornata. Bye bye.
Grazie.
Thank you.
Grazie.
Bye.
Ciao.